We're just a few days away from genuinely one of the greatest cards we've ever seen. It's the mini welterweight tournament we got cooking up, and it's two former champions that are moving up a weight class to make history. And today I'm giving y'all my full card predictions and breakdown for the almighty UFC 322 this weekend, man. Starting off with the early prelim opener, which is Vyacheslav Borshchev versus Matheus Camilo. Very short notice fight for both guys, but at least Camilo, I believe he was supposed to have a fight at UFC 321. Fight didn't end up happening, so now he's here, and I'm going to pick him as my pick here, okay? Well, no dip, but I'm going to be picking Camilo here because Borshchev fooled me once. I picked you against Tom Nolan, and you let me down. Fooled me twice. I picked you against Terrence McKenna, and he got choked out inside like a minute. I can't do it a third time. As much as I'm tempted to go with the plus money of Borshchev, and as much as the hardcores, they all love Borshchev, man. I do think he has the stand-up advantage, the striking advantage in this fight, and I feel like he has the power advantage. If anybody's going to get a knockout here, maybe even some kind of finish, I dare say it can be Borshchev, but Camilo, here's the thing, man. Here's the fucking thing, you guys. He's capable of takedowns. He has a ground game. He has a grappling game, which is above average to the average fighter in the world. And for Borshchev, man, that's his literal kryptonite. And because of that, I can't pick him, dude. Like, this guy is so prone to getting picked up and put down. This guy is so prone to getting choked out and submitted multiple different ways. And I just can't trust in him to keep this fight standing. His takedown defense can be okay against a certain level of opponent. And don't get me wrong, I feel like there's worse jobbers and jabronis in the UFC, but Borshchev, as much as people like him, man, he's 8-6 overall in MMA, and he's getting older and older in age. He's not an unk, but again, Camilo, in his last performance, I get that he gassed out. I get that even then he got choked out in, like, I believe the first or second round, but at least he got a couple of takedowns in. At least the striking numbers were pretty even. I feel like he just gassed out and just burst out all of his energy too soon, and I don't think he's going to make that mistake against Borshchev, and at least he's kind of prepared for a fight. Borshchev, I believe he's just taking this on weeks' notice. At least Camilo knew he had a fight coming up, so I like that even more for him, and I just can't trust in Borshchev anymore, especially going against someone with a ground game, okay? Camilo in his own right, he's been choked out multiple times in his career and a lot of time in the amateur scene, so I got to rate that. I don't think he's going to be like a ranked level, but the guy did have some hype. The guy was a prospect that a lot of people were going with to win his last fight. And I don't think Gabe Green is too bad of a loss, so I'm going to be trusting in Camilo here to get this one done over Borshchev. It hurts, but not too damn bad, okay? Moving on to the next one we got, man, it's Susurkaev. I believe the biggest favorite on the card and one of the more hyped up prospects overall in the UFC. He's taking on one of the jobbers of jobbers. The Rock himself would slap this guy across the face. It's McConico. I'm going to be picking Susurkaev, man, okay? I'm not too crazy to be picking McConico, man. Jesus, but McConico, I don't really know how he's that UFC level. I think that there definitely are worse fighters. His striking itself is pretty solid, but man, I just don't know if he's that UFC level. He got what a lot of people thought was a robbery decision over Cody Brundage, and if it wasn't for that, he'd be 0-2 in the UFC, and Susurkaev, man, I feel like he's going to have every advantage in the world here. I don't think he's this unbeatable fighter in the world. I do think that one day he will be beaten and he will be a lot more tested than a guy like McConico, but it just feels like a layup for him, okay? I don't think in his last performance it was as dominant as we thought it was going to be, and I don't think he was as efficient with his work as we thought it was going to be, but Susurkaev by all means is just the better fighter here, man. His striking, I'm going to edge him out and give him the advantage here. I don't think he has the craziest power, but it is power, okay? You could argue more power than a guy like McConico here. On top of the fact that he's got a nice one too. He's got a mean front kick, especially to the body. I believe that's how he knocked out his opponent in the Contender Series performance. And even against his last performance in the actual UFC debut against Eric Nolan, who was piecing him up way more than he should have. He was really implementing that front kick pretty well, and eventually he got the submission in round 2, and he was pretty slick with his takedown. So in general, it just feels like a step down in competition where Susurkaev is going to have the grappling advantage. I feel like he's just going to be the stronger athlete. He's going to be longer and rangier, and again, I feel like he's going to get the better of McConico on the feet. So overall, I'm going to be going with Khamzat Chimaev's teammate and Susurkaev here via plot armor and just having pretty much every advantage in the world here, okay? I think that one day Susurkaev is going to come up short and really be tested on the feet, especially, but I don't think today's the day. Okay, McConico, I don't think you're the guy, all right? Moving on to the next one we got here, man. Sabatini versus Mariscal. A bit of a grappler versus grappler matchup here. Not to push out my fake hardcore glasses, but I love this matchup, folks. But I really do like this fight, man, okay? I'm going to be going with the slight favorite of Sabatini here, man. This is technically a rematch. These guys did fight, I believe, in like 2017 or 18. Could be botching the year, but these guys fought in the regional scene, and I believe Mariscal won via a split decision, but I just think Sabatini, even though if you asked a lot of people a year or two ago, they were going to say, oh, this guy was a prospect on the rise and now he's just a jobber outside of the rankings. He's really had a bit of a resurgence. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now. And the last one over Joe Anderson Brito was goddamn domination. And Sabatini, man, the reason why I'm going to pick him over a guy like Mariscal, who is undefeated in the UFC, he's riding a 5-fight win streak, and him in his own right has looked pretty solid. I just think Sabatini is going to be just a better grappler here. I feel like he has the better takedown entries, better control when he's actually getting his opponents to the ground. He can't allow him to get up, like his life depends on it. And overall, his submission game is better. I feel like his actual finishing ability on the ground is just better. Mariscal is one of these guys where, yeah, he could take you down. He pretty much does to every single one of his opponents in the UFC. And he's won, but they're almost always getting back up to their feet eventually. It's not like Mariscal is just able to get these submissions. It's not like he's just ragged on him on the ground for the whole fight, okay? And you could argue that he does have the striking advantage, so I feel like that's a valid point. Mariscal is the more aggressive striker. I feel like he has a bit more pop behind his shots, and I feel like he has much more high output and volume on the feet, but Sabatini in his own right, I feel like even though he lacks the pop behind his shots, and I don't think his stand-up is what's going to carry him through in this fight, he is the more accurate striker, and I feel like he might be able to hold his own just enough to where he's able to get these takedowns, and even though he doesn't, I don't think he's going to be able to submit a guy like Mariscal. I feel like he's too good defensively on the ground. I could see Sabatini kind of making his way and controlling him efficiently here, and maybe getting some kind of close decision at 29-28. I think Mariscal might get the better of him on the feet when they are going back and forth, but overall, I'm going to trust in Sabatini because I feel like, again, just the better grappler, and he's training with Joe Piper, big old Joe Piper, and he's training with Sean Brady. He's got a good camp behind him, and Mariscal is one of these fighters where he is good. He's a good grappler, but he's undefeated in the UFC right now, and I just don't think that's going to last, okay? So I'm going to be going with Sabatini via a 29-28 decision. I think he's going to get redemption in the rematch, but this time it's in the UFC level, okay? Moving on to the next one we got, man. Kyle Daukaus is the second biggest favorite of the card, I believe, taking on the unk of all unks, okay? The one we all love and pray to, GM3 Gerald Meerschaert. It hurts, man, but I got to pick against him, dude. Already, this is a bad matchup for him because Daukaus is capable of just having that kind of power to knock out a guy like Michel Pereira, who I don't think is too crazy of a level of competition. I feel like he has massive cardio problems and massive problems sometimes with the grappling. But in general, like, Michel Pereira is a good fighter lingering outside the rankings. And for Daukaus to throw that mean overhand right and knock him out in, I believe, like 30 seconds, Daukaus, he was cut from the UFC originally. He was racking up a lot of losses, went back on the regional scene, looked pretty impressive, was racking up a lot of finishes, especially submissions specifically, and now he's back, and again, 1-0 since his resurgence, and I feel like Michel Pereira would beat a guy like Gerald Meerschaert via just having that power advantage, via being the more dynamic striker overall. And GM3, man, as much as I like him, okay, as much as I want to pick him because he's consistently an underdog, okay, I believe every time he's damn near won in the UFC, he's been an underdog around these odds, okay, so he definitely could get it done. You could argue that he just has that better UFC experience. You could argue that he does have just the pure grappling advantage, maybe a better submission game, because at least we've seen it at the UFC level compared to where Daukaus, yes, a lot of his wins overall in MMA are from submissions, and he's looked great right now, but I feel like he's trying to become more of that well-rounded fighter. Again, the knockout over Pereira is great, and we already know he has a submission game, but again, if you want to argue and get all technical with that, GM3 could just go out there and out-grapple him. I can maybe see that, but I just think Daukaus is going to be one of the better locks of the card. Not to jinx it, knock on wood, but Daukaus is going to have the power advantage here, man. He is beatable, but to KO a guy like that, like Pereira, I got to rate it. He's developing into a more well-rounded fighter, and in general, he's long and rangy for the division. He's built like genuinely one of the world's most buff cross-country runners you'll ever see, but in general, man, like GM3, he's had so much damage in his career and so many losses. He's had like 50 or 60 plus pro fights, and even now, he's not getting any younger. He's not getting any faster, okay? I think we might have already seen the best of GM3, unfortunately, okay? So I'm going to trust in Daukaus via having the striking advantage. I feel like he's going to find the chin of Meerschaert because Meerschaert in his own right, he gets caught a lot, man. He's prone to getting knocked out. His chin isn't the best. His stand-up can be questionable, and he's coming off a rough round one knockout to Nickal, okay? And I believe he's already lost like 2 or 3 fights in a row, so he's not exactly building momentum, whereas Daukaus is, man. And you got to think he's hungrier than ever in the middle of his prime, and he's finally back to the UFC, and looking to go 2-0 in this resurgence. So I'm trusting in Daukaus, has the power and striking advantage here, and I think he'll be able to hold his own in the scrambles, okay? So I'm going with Daukaus, man, via round 1 knockout, okay? Moving on to the next one we got here, man. A matchup that will feed generations, guys, okay? It's Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cody Haddon, and Cody Haddon, why are you looking at me like that, bro? Why does this guy look like he's built out of something out of Peaky Blinders, bro? I didn't know Australia had Peaky Blinders like that, but I'm still, regardless, as much as I think Cody Haddon is a good fighter, in his own right, I'm very tempted to go with that plus money, and I think a lot of people were expecting Malcolm Wellmaker to be like a minus 1,000 favorite, but man. Cody Haddon is a good motherfucking fighter, dude, okay? Well-rounded in his own right, and he was pacing up his last performance, I believe his UFC debut against Argueta, and yes, it went to the judges' scorecards, and you could argue, like, how the hell did he not get him out of there? But, man, he was piecing him up, man. He has so much high volume and output on the feet. He has solid pop behind his shots. He's got a nice 1-2 and an overhand right. Solid head movement, solid kicking game, especially to the legs and body. Very aggressive overall. Always moving forward, and like I said, just a very high volume and output with the striking. But he also, for this matchup specifically, has that threat of the takedown, has the threat of possibly getting a submission here, because Wellmaker has looked fantastic. He's been in a very good mean streak, okay? And I gotta rate the power of him, and especially he's a very good counter striker, which I could see that style hurting Haddon, someone who's always moving forward, always trying to piece you up. I could see Wellmaker catch him with that check right hook, because, dude, he's been doing it consistently in his fights on the Contender Series against Chris Mutino. There was another opponent I'm missing too, but that check right hook, man, has been proven time and time again to catch these guys. So for Haddon, someone who's always rushing in, and Wellmaker, someone who's such a good counter striker, I could see that working in Wellmaker's favor. And you got to think if Wellmaker wins, I sound like John Anik, you got to think, folks, but you got to think if Wellmaker wins here that it probably will be via some knockout. He still has that undefeated aura to him. And for as much as I could see Haddon being able to hold his own in the striking, I think he will for the first half of the fight, first round or two. I think Wellmaker eventually will catch him, because Wellmaker, man, I feel like he has the speed advantage. I just think overall his striking I do rate better. His boxing is damn near beautiful and pretty to watch, my boys, okay? He's got good timing, good shot selection, very powerful. I think the fight's going to be pretty back and forth and competitive for the most part, but I think Wellmaker eventually will catch him. Haddon does have the takedown threat, man. He does have that submission threat. I think Wellmaker eventually will be tested by the brother of the brother. Some kind of daggy wrestler, or just someone with an above average wrestling or submission game that will be able to maybe take Wellmaker out of there on the ground. But I just don't know if Haddon is the guy. He's been inactive for like 13 or 14 months. And again, I'm worried that his aggressiveness, while very entertaining to watch, and while it's definitely able to beat a certain level of competition, I think it might backfire here. And I think Wellmaker's going to catch him. Okay, so I sense a late round 2 knockout for Wellmaker here, just by being faster and having those better shot selections, to where I think he's going to catch him, okay? Moving on to the next one we got here, man. Roman Kopylov taking on Gregory Rodrigues, dude. Oh my God, such a banger. And I swear to God, I can go for a 10-mile run right now just thinking of fights like this. And we're not even to the main card yet, and I'm foaming at the mouth, all right? I'm gonna be going with Gregory Rodrigues here. I just feel like he has more weapons to get it done. I feel like that he's the more well-rounded athlete. He has the threat of the takedown. He's got some pretty mean ground and pound at times, and in general, a guy like Kopylov, who's coming off a rough loss, whereas at least Rodrigues, he kind of experienced that Jerry Cannonier level, came up short in one of the best fights I've ever seen, but he bounced back with a nasty, filthy KO over our poor boy Jack Hermanson here, okay? Somebody please check and see if he's still in the middle of the cage lying like this, but regardless, I shouldn't joke about that, Jesus Christ, I'm glad Hermanson is safe and well, but regardless of that, man, Rodrigues' power, I feel like, is just different than Kopylov. Don't get me wrong, most of Kopylov's wins, they come from knockout. And I feel like in terms of the technical striking, I do think Kopylov is the better striker. He's very dynamic. He's got a mean kicking game. He's going to have the speed advantage here, okay? Very good kickboxing that will carry him through in a lot of fights, especially like these, where it kind of is just two guys who are primarily going to play it out on the feet. But I think Rodrigues just has a different level of power, where Kopylov, it kind of takes a build up to his performances, and then he's getting these knockouts in like the second or third round via brutal head kicks or whatever it may be. But with a guy like Rodrigues, all it takes is one shot and then their opponent's laying flat on the mat. So in terms of pure power, I'd probably rate it to Rodrigues, and I think his striking is good enough to be able to hold his own with Kopylov as long as he's applying a good enough pressure to keep him backing up and not letting him get comfortable on the feet, because Costa did that really well, pressuring forward and just not allowing Kopylov to get comfortable on the feet. And Costa was throwing so much volume, and I believe even knocked down Kopylov at one point, to where I think Rodrigues might be able to do the same thing. I don't think he always has the highest amount of output on the feet, but again, I think in terms of just the striking exchanges, when these guys are getting in the pocket, the threat of the knockout, I feel like he's going to be more dangerous for Rodrigues to Kopylov than Kopylov to Rodrigues. And Kopylov, man, I mean, we were talking about him a couple years ago, like he was going to be the next big thing, the next Brock Lesnar, and he was going to be the next prospect on the rise for the division, but he came up short against Fluffy Hernandez, he got choked out. He came up short against Paulo Costa, and overall just got pieced the hell up in that fight. Like, Kopylov is beatable, and don't get me wrong, so is Rodrigues. He's experienced plenty of losses overall in MMA, and he's been knocked out 4 times as a whole, okay? So I do have to keep that in consideration, and I get that Kopylov, he does have cardio concerns at times. As the fight goes on, he does slow down a bit, but the same thing can be said for Rodrigues. He completely gassed himself out against a guy like Cannonier, and that ended up coming back to bite him in the ass. But the thing is, man, like, I feel like he learned from that. He was saying in the build-up to the Hermansson fight that he wasn't going to force the knockout. He wasn't going to force anything. He was just going to try and stay ahead until eventually the knockout just comes. And he was going to build into the fight. And he did a very good job of doing that. The fight didn't even make it to the second round. So I think he's got a good team behind him. He trains with Jarino Burns and all those guys. And I feel like Kopylov, man, a very good kickboxer. But I feel like especially as the fight builds on, I'm just going to trust Rodrigues even more to probably find that knockout. Like, Kopylov in his own right is capable of getting knocked down or knocked out, and I feel like that he needs tens of strikes to kind of build the momentum, whereas again Rodrigues, I just think more well-rounded athlete, better power. I feel like he has the height and reach advantage here to where I'm going to be trusting Gregory Rodrigues via a round 3 knockout. I feel like the fight's going to be very competitive going into it. I feel like Rodrigues might implement a few takedowns in his own right, but even if and when Kopylov gets back up to his feet, I'm still going to be trusting Rodrigues regardless. I sense a 29-28 decision or a round 3 knockout for this one, okay? Moving on to the next one we got here. Big, bad Bo Nickal. He's taking on Rodolfo Vieira. And I know a lot of people are trying to be crafty and they're picking Vieira here. And I do think that's a valid pick. I think there's solid value on him as that plus 200. But I'm going to be trusting in Bo Nickal here to get it done. I feel like on paper, man, this is a winnable matchup for him. I feel like the UFC is planting the seed where Bo Nickal's able to get this win, and he's going to earn back the respect of the fans. And Jesus, this is the first time Bo has ever been on a prelim in this time in the UFC. So I got to appreciate them for at least fixing the order of things. Okay, this is perfect for him. Feature prelim spot to where he will get that attention, especially if he gets some kind of standout knockout or something like that. But even with just a win, man, Rodolfo Vieira is a good level of competition where that is a very respectable win, okay? Vieira, I mean, this is Joe Rogan's favorite fighter, folks, here in his world now. And I mean, this guy is a good BJJ specialist. He does have a good submission game. His arm triangle specifically is mean and nasty, and he's gotten a lot of people out of there in the UFC via that specifically, okay? But I get he's coming off of a win over Tresean Gore. He was looking good in the stand-up in that fight, but in general, I just don't think Vieira has too good of a striking game to where I think Bo Nickal is going to have the striking advantage, the power advantage, and I get that, he's only 7-1, and some of his most notable knockouts are over guys like fucking Val Woodburn, and he's not even able to really efficiently take out a guy like Paul Craig, who's known for being that kind of step up in competition where you do get some big knockout, or I would say submission, but you do get some big knockout over him, and then you move on to a ranked level. But Bo took him to a slow pace, kind of dull to watch featured fight of a 30-27 on the feet, man, and even Paul Craig was kind of holding his own in the striking at times. Very kind of dull performance from Bo, kind of a letdown, and he ended up getting taken out of there by RDR anyways. I was there live. Beautiful to see that in general, but I think this is just a more winnable opponent for Bo compared to a guy like Renier de Ridder, who I get's coming off a loss in his own right, but he was active as hell, and in general, I'd rate Renier de Ridder 10 to 10 days above a guy like Vieira. Vieira, man, he can get outstruck on the feet. Vieira, he can gas out as the fight goes on. Like Fluffy Hernandez, man, he started out very strong, but Fluffy, I get he's a cardio machine, but all it took was like the end of round 1, and Vieira was already gassed out of there. So his fight IQ could be poor at times, especially he can gas out if things don't go his way specifically. If the takedowns aren't going through, obviously I feel like this fight's just going to play out on the feet like I think it will. And Bo, I think, is just going to outvalue him and just have the harder hitting shots. And I sense maybe either a late knockout or like a 29-28 decision here. Going against a grappler like Bo Nickal, man, I just don't know if Vieira is going to be as efficient with these takedown entries, man. Like Bo Nickal in his own right, the bread and butter is the big old USA wrestling. So I feel like even if Vieira is shooting in, man, like I feel like Bo Nickal's takedown defense for the most part is going to hold up. I know that his style of wrestling hasn't exactly translated to the MMA type of grappling like I think Vieira's has, but in general, I think Bo, he's just a younger fighter. I feel like he's going to learn a lot from just the ups and the downs he's been facing lately, like the Cody Brundage performance, the Paul Craig performance, RDR performance. I feel like we do forget. People forget, man, but we truly do forget how green of a fighter he really is. Like, he's Piccolo himself. He's just going to be Aura farming, standing on top of a mountain. But you get my point, man. Bo, I feel like he can only go up, whereas Vieira, man, he's already 36 or 37 years old, kind of at that tail end of his prime, already kind of past his prime a bit, and I just think the striking worries me. I don't think he's going to be very efficient with his takedowns, and I do think he has a chance to get this one done, but I think Bo Nickal might be able to get the better of him in the scrambles and the grappling as a whole, and especially in the striking, where I smell a 29-28 decision here for Bo, or a round 2 or 3 knockout for him, okay? Vieira, he's tough to get out of there, but he's losing to guys like Andre Petrosky, who's piecing the hell up, and he is losing to guys like Fluffy Hernandez, who is a great prospect on the rise, okay? Not a prospect anymore, but you know what I'm saying. So this just seems like a level of competition where I think Bo should be able to get some kind of standout performance, but who the hell knows, okay? Vieira could get it done. He's got a crafty submission game as a whole. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu wizard, folks, but in general, I'm trusting in Bo Nickal to get this one done and build back the momentum for himself, okay? Moving on to open up the main card, man. We're eating good like it's goddamn Minecraft. You know when you're like those low health bars and you go and all of a sudden you just fill up? Holy shit, man. This is opening up the main card here. Benoit Saint Denis taking on Beneil Dariush. I'm going to be going with Benoit Saint Denis. I feel like one of my more confident picks of the card, but if you're looking at just MMA math, okay, Moicano, he beat Benoit Saint Denis and he 10-8'd him in the first with just the grappling, but then Dariush beat Moicano pretty efficiently with the grappling, so how the hell is a guy like BSD supposed to out-grapple, or at least not out-grapple, but hold his own against Beneil Dariush? You could argue that MMA math doesn't make sense for this one, but styles make fights, man, okay? And Beneil Dariush has proven that I truly believe he has one of the worst chins in the UFC, man, okay? Like, if you're getting rocked in the first round and knocked down by Moicano, who, come on, man. Something you can confidently say about Moicano is that he's not known for having pop behind his shots. He's not known for knocking down his opponents. He's not known for having that power on the feet, okay? Or even just his striking as a whole. So, for him to do that to Beneil, on top of the fact that Beneil before that was coming off of a huge layoff, and B, 2 round 1 knockouts over Oliveira and Saryuki, man. So, Beneil Dariush, yes, he's coming off of a win, but like, and yes, he built into that fight against Moicano, and out-grappling him is no joke. I do got to rate that solidly. I feel like if Beneil's chin is able to survive, I feel like he'll do very well in this fight and probably get a win, but I can't ignore the chin, man. Like, the chin is just made of glass, it seems, and I feel like that on paper, if this was a prime Beneil Dariush, he should be able to win this one, man. Like, prime Beneil Dariush, who's knocking down Gamrot, and he's going back and forth in the fight of the year against Drakkar Klose, man. Like, I just don't think that's Beneil anymore, man. He's only getting older. He's only getting slower. He's getting less efficient with everything he's doing, to where Benoit Saint Denis, he is well-rounded. He's going to have that clear power advantage to where he's just that pure marauder that I think is the perfect style to be able to hold his own and maybe the takedown defense for as long as the early goings of the fight lasts, and he's able to find that knockout, and I believe the first round, man. I think if Beneil's chin held up, I would trust in him to build into the fight, hold his own in the striking, and eventually get Benoit out of there via either maybe submission or just controlling him very efficiently for most of the fight. But again, every round starts on the feet, man, and I just feel like that's just enough time for BSD to find the right shots. He's got a very high finishing rate, and I get that even though his defense, it's very poor, okay? And I get that he's one of the slower fighters in general. It makes him very hittable. He's got the hands low constantly, and again, very hittable on the feet. But he does have that wild power and explosivity to where he's everything I feel like Michael Chandler could be, okay? He's a well-rounded athlete. He knows how to get after it in the grappling in his own right. Like, look what he did to Mauricio D. Rufy, King of the Pirates. Like, he was able to show the levels in the grappling, which I feel like is something he needed to do, A, just to beat a guy like Rufy, and B, in general, to remind us that he can be a well-rounded athlete as a whole. So I get that there are levels of grappling, and I get that Beneil on paper should be able to get this one done, but the chin worries me so much to the point to where I feel like it's going to be his kryptonite. I feel like Benoit Saint Denis is going to be able to get the better of him on the feet. I get that he's a bit of a slow athlete and again very hittable, but you could say the same things about Beneil, man. So I'm going to be trusting in BSD via maraudering his way through, and I sense a round 1 knockout for him, man. Especially opening up the main card like the UFC knows what they're doing, okay? They're trying to put France back on the map and give BSD the momentum that he really needs here, okay? So a couple years ago, I'd be picking Beneil, but right now, I just think Benoit, he's going to be more aggressive. I feel like he's going to throw more high output on the feet. And with that, man, he has that clear power advantage to where I don't think Beneil's shin's going to be able to hold up. I sense a round one knockout here coming from Benoit Saint Denis, okay? Moving on to the next one we got here, man. Leon Mumblemouth Edwards. Get fucked, bro. Go fuck yourself, bro. Taking on Carlos Prates here. Dude, even including the main event, this is the fight I've been going back and forth on the most. Oh my god, I'm gonna trust in Leon Edwards though. I don't even like Leon. Leon's one of the least likable fighters on the roster in my opinion, okay? If y'all are familiar with the channel, all I feel like is just shit on Edwards, but I feel like this is a matchup that he's capable of winning. I notice a trend in Leon Edwards' career where, especially in the UFC, his only losses come from these guys who are able to mix in the wrestling on him, okay? And in general, Leon's barely lost in the UFC. The main thing that concerns me with picking Leon, okay, is his chin. Yes, he's never been knocked out before, okay, but getting rocked by hands of steel, hands of Canelo himself, Belal Muhammad, that's a rough look. Belal Muhammad ain't exactly a knockout artist. I think he has good boxing. I think he's a good pressure fighter. I think it was a great performance over Edwards, but to get rocked by him is a different story, man, okay? And again, getting rocked by Nate Diaz, dude. Like, that is not a good look, and he's pointing him and shit. I get that Leon was winning 24 to 25 minutes of that fight, but these are very concerning moments for the chin. But at the end of the day, dude, he's able to survive every time, okay? And Prates, though, he does have that different level of power. That's why I'm so concerned picking Leon. He has a different level of power to where Li Jingliang, never been knocked out. Prates, first guy to knock him out. 1 round. Jeff Neal, never been knocked out. Carlos Prates, the first guy to ever do it. So Prates has that different level of power, and I believe every single win he has in the UFC comes from brutal knockouts. So I can see him being that level of power to be able to efficiently take on Leon, different than guys like Belal and different than guys like Nate Diaz, okay? But Leon Edwards, man, similar to like an Ian Gary, I do think he has that kind of good style to be able to neutralize Prates, man. He's a good counter striker. He's heavily on the back foot, and he does a really good job of stealing away rounds without actually doing too much volume or damage, but yet he's able to pull through. And again, Gary, like Edwards, he does a really good job of circling on the outside while still landing his shots and stealing these rounds where it makes it really hard for their opponents to get their offense going. And I think Prates is a really good striker. I think he has really crazy power. He has a really good Muay Thai style, but I just don't think he's the pressure fighter that he needs to be able to go out there and just out-value him and out-piece up Edwards and just not allow any room for him to breathe on the feet and then eventually find that round 1 or 2 knockout, okay? I think Prates has the different level of power to knock out Leon in either round 1, 2, or 3, but Leon, man, I could just see him stealing away these rounds while still getting his own offense going and still piecing them up to where I can maybe sense a 29-28 and then Prates wins either the first round and looks great or the third round and almost has Leon out of there but can't quite get it done. And I get that sounds really familiar to the Ian Gary performance, and I get that Prates came up short in that one, but you got to think he's going to learn from that. You got to think he's not going to make the same mistakes as a guy like... or I'm sorry, the performance that he did against a guy like Ian Gary, to where Prates, he's still young, he's still hungry, he still has a lot to prove. And he called out Edwards. He was calm for this fight in Rio, so you gotta think that him and the team are pointing out things in Edwards' game to where, okay, they might be able to find that right shot, and they're really hunting down a guy like Edwards to find that chin, but I just think Edwards is going to frustrate him on the feet. And on top of the fact that he does have that threat of the takedown. Like, technically on paper, this is the greatest wrestler that Carlos Prates has ever fought. I get the Gary got him down a couple of times, but that was in like the 4th and 5th round, man. Like, Prates' takedown defense is really good. It's like that iron wall that has been holding up for the most part, especially at the UFC level, okay? But he's shucking off Neil Magny and putting his balls on his forehead. But in general, man, Leon, he did take down Usman. I got to rate that. He did take down Covington. I do have to rate that. And he's taken down opponents previously in the UFC to where he does have that threat in general. I don't know if he's going to rely on that as part of the game plan. I feel like Edwards has been itching to finally fight a striker, so I can see him like panic shooting a takedown, like if Prates is really rocking him and hurting him, but I feel like at that point, as soon as Prates connects, I feel like if Edwards does lose, he's just going to go fall into the mat regardless. So Edwards, though, I just think his style is going to be able to frustrate Prates. I feel like he's going to steal away these rounds. And again, he does have the threat of the wrestling to where I smell a stinker here of a 29-28 decision here with Leon Edwards winning. And again, he's just his chin, even though it is very concerning at times, it's always able to hold through, man. Prates, amazing striker, crazy power, and honestly, one of my favorite fighters that we got for welterweight. Like, I'm a big Prates fan. It hurts me to even be picking Leon, who I can't stand. Okay, this mumble mouth. Shut the fuck up, bro. Go fuck yourself, bro. I'm in a 29-28 John headshot dead, bro. Fuck you! Fuck you! But in general, man, I can't deny that the guy is a good striker, okay? And for the most part, it's very hard to defeat him at the UFC level. And in his own right, man. Former champion who's still only 34 years old, okay? So I'm going to be trusting in Leon Edwards like it's the doomsday apocalypse itself here. But Prates, by all means, could be able to get this one done. He does have that level of striking and that level of power, but I'm overall just going to be trusting Leon Edwards to just frustrate him on the feet and be able to hold his own here, okay? Moving on out of the featured fight of the card, man, it's Sean Brady, who, respect for taking this matchup, man. He's number 2 in the world, and he's fighting down to number 8 here. Risky matchup for him. It's a huge prospect on the rise who has a lot of advantages here. It's Michael Morales. Very hard fight to predict, but I'm going to be trusting in Sean Brady to get this one done, man, okay? Semi-confident in here because listen, Sean Brady, the actual striking, let's talk about it. I do think he's very simplistic with the striking, okay? Nice little 1-2 down the middle, a little calf kick here and there. Whoa! And then all of a sudden, ultimately, it's just building into where he wants the fight to go, which is the ground, to the mats, okay? I feel like all his striking does is really just efficiently get him to these takedowns, okay? And he can kind of be a bit of a slow starter, like a lot of these submissions that he's getting, and the better he looks on as the fight goes, does kind of start at that second round, or the third round, championship rounds as well. We saw that with Burns and Edwards and all that, okay? Even how he submitted Gastelum, that was like in the third round. So Brady kind of builds into that fight. He's not exactly that round one submission artist that can be concerning, okay? Because Morales, he's dangerous on the feet. He has the clear striking advantage, the clear power advantage, and overall, he's just longer and rangier, and he's got the speed and athleticism advantage as well, man. But I do think that there's holes defensively in his game on the feet for Morales, but I don't think Brady is the striker that's really going to test him that level on the feet. But what I do think Brady will really test him in is the wrestling, man. I think that Morales is a great undefeated prospect. Don't get me wrong. He's going to beat most of the guys in the rankings. But I think Brady's wrestling is going to be too much for him, man. And I don't think Morales has been tested in that way where I think Brady will, man. I do think Brady is going to have a hard time at closing the distance, getting into the pocket with Morales. But I do think that eventually once the fight gets into the clinch and once he is taking down Morales, I feel like he's going to have a pretty efficient time of just either getting that submission or just controlling him for a majority of the fight. But I don't think he's really just going to go out there with just trying to get a decision. Like, Brady knows, especially with Prates on the card, and especially with the main event specifically being the welterweight title, with Gary fighting next weekend, like, number one contendership is up for grabs. Like, it's a literal money in the bank briefcase, man. And Brady knows he needs some kind of submission. But I do think if Brady wins, I think he's going to get a sub. I think a round 2 submission here, man. I think the grappling advantage is going to be too much here for Morales to handle. I get that there's a lot of advantages in his own right for Morales, but man, he's got good takedown defense for the most part, but I just don't know if it's going to hold up to the level of Sean Brady's offensive wrestling here, man. And on top of the fact, I got to mention this, dude. Morales is already talking about a move to middleweight, okay? And that concerns me. For somebody that's as young as him, 26 years old, and again, he's a big dude, probably has a hard time making the mold for 170. Like, if he's already talking about middleweight and he hasn't even gotten this top 5 kind of matchup yet, like, that stuff does concern me. I feel like that's a real thing, Daniel, but as a whole, man, Morales, I could see him getting a knockout. I feel like if he does win, it's going to be that round 1 finish or maybe some kind of late finish, okay? Maybe it does play out like a Burns and JDM, and all of a sudden, Brady's ragged on him in the grappling, and Morales, all it takes is that one shot, and he catches him in the third. I could see that happening, but I do think Brady, unlike Morales, who is still undefeated, Brady was that guy. He was undefeated. He was that 16, 17-0, and then he ran into the big bad Bilal Muhammad. I don't think it's too rough of a loss, especially considering what Bilal Muhammad has ended up doing overall in his career, man. He was on a mean win streak. He was competing in his own right for number 1 contendership, and he ended up becoming the champion. So I don't think it's too rough of a loss, especially it's like a standing TKO. It seems more like Brady just kind of got mentally defeated in there. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, or I'm not trying to say that's exactly how the outcome went, but I just feel like Brady's going to learn a lot from that loss. I think losses in MMA, man, like they kind of are necessary, super necessary, and you can really learn from that. And Brady has been on a mean streak ever since then. I don't even believe he's lost a round, so he's completely taken over with everyone that they've thrown at him since then. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and morale is, with him not tasting that defeat, I feel like he is a bit more green at that kind of top 7, top 8 level. I think Brady, man, he's just going to learn from that Bilal loss. And his striking in his own right, I know he's saying he is very simplistic. It's not the craziest boxing in the world, but I feel like he'll be able to hold his own just enough to efficiently get these takedowns when need be, man. So overall, I'm in a sense a round 2 submission here for Sean Brady. I feel like he's going to be making pretty efficient work on Morales on the ground. If Morales can't get his offense and fluidity going on the feet, like I think a lot of people think he will, okay? So overall, I'm going to be trusting in Sean Brady to get this one done via fighting for #1 contendership and getting that round 2, maybe round 3 submission here over the very dangerous Michael Morales, okay? Moving on to the co-main event, man. Love this fight. Again, I really don't talk about WMMA in the channel, so that's how you know this is a banger here, man. Pound for pound #1, Shevchenko taking on pound for pound #2 in Weili. I'm trusting in the underdog, man, and everybody's favorite female fighter in Weili, okay? The thing about Shevchenko is that, yes, on paper, she does have a lot of advantages here, and yes, she could be possibly a bit more of that perfected, well-rounded athlete, but I just don't think this is the Valentina of old. Whereas Weili in her own right is very high level, very well-rounded, man. She has improved so much in her wrestling over the past couple of years, and we've seen that against Lemos. We've seen that against Suarez, okay? Like, Weili's breaking records with her grappling, and her wrestling in general, defensively and offensively, I think is going to be good enough to where Shevchenko isn't going to be able to really efficiently control her and put on some kind of stinker performance like we saw in the Grasso trilogy, okay? And even Benon Vieira was giving Shevchenko problems. Like, I didn't know who was going to win that fight by the time we got to the judges' scorecards, okay? I thought Vieira, you know, I think it was a 48-47 for Shevchenko, but... And by the way, what a shit fight. God damn it. Let's hope Weili wins, man. I can't see another stinker from Shevchenko in a row, man. And Weili, we love her. She's carrying the nation of WMMA on her back. But Weili, I get that she's only a year younger than Shevchenko, but she looks 10 years younger, man. Like, she looks so much more in her prime. And again, the striking, I get Shevchenko can really piece up most girls, but I think Weili is going to have that power advantage, that finishing ability advantage, whether it be on the ground or on the feet. I feel like Weili, if this fight's going to end via finish, it's probably going to go to her. But regardless, I think Shevchenko's going to be too good to where I think this fight is going to go to the distance. But Weili just looks so much faster, more in her prime, and she's just so efficient with everything she does. She still looks like she's improving, and where Shevchenko, I get that she's in her own bubble in terms of level of competition, but these girls are giving her problems, man. I just feel like she's not the Valentina of old. She's looking slower, and she's just looking less efficient with the things she's doing overall, man, in these past couple of performances. And it's getting very close and scary for her to where she has to rely on these stinker performances, and there's nothing really standing out to where I think Weili's going to be able to hold her own in the striking, probably piece her up on the feet, probably throw more Valium and have that power advantage and be able to hold her own in the scrambles and with the takedown defense. Maybe even get some takedowns of her own on Shevchenko. People forget, man, but I'm trusting in Weili to just be more in it right now, okay? Overall, I'm in a sense a 48-47 competitive fight, maybe a 49-46, but overall it just goes to Weili, who's just doing a bit more every round, or for the most part every round, okay? So I'm trusting in Weili, man, to get this one done, and hopefully she does. Moving on to the big bad main event, one of the best fights this year, definitely the best title fight we've been getting all year. JDM carrying Australia on his back versus Islam Makhachev. My prediction here, I mean, drum roll, please, but it's... What the fuck was that? But it's gonna be Islam Makhachev, dude, okay? I feel like the traits that people are kind of holding against Islam Makhachev is like these intangibles about how he's gonna fit at the 170 mold, or maybe his chin just isn't gonna be able to hold up. Like, people forget he got knocked out 10 years ago, and it's all this random stuff to where I don't think in terms of actually skill versus skill, Islam's the worst fighter. I think he is the better fighter on paper here, man. Clearly has the grappling advantage, and I get that JDM clearly has the striking advantage, but again, Makhachev's able to hold his own in these guys who technically have the striking advantage over him, okay? Like Oliveira and Poirier and Volkanovski, and yet he's still able to win. I don't think Makhachev is going to get a finish in the first half of the fight. If he does, I think it's going to be like a round 4 submission, something like that. But overall, I do think that if Makhachev wins, it's going to be a 48-47 decision. I just think that he's the better version of Belal Muhammad. I know I said earlier that Belal Muhammad has good boxing. I stand by that, but you could argue Makhachev could be able to hold his own maybe a bit more in the striking here. And on top of the fact that he actually has finishing ability, he actually has pop behind his shots. JDM was marching forward and piecing up Belal Muhammad, okay, and I get his face look completely different and busted up afterwards, but JDM just wasn't afraid of the power of Belal Muhammad because it's non-existent. Like Makhachev, we don't really know how that's going to translate exactly his strength up to 170, but dude, I feel like that Makhachev actually has a threat to where JDM should be worried about it. I don't think he's going to be able to march down Makhachev as efficiently as he was able to march down a guy like Belal Muhammad. I get that Makhachev and Belal are very similar in terms of their styles, but I'd rate the grappling to Makhachev. I'd rate the striking possibly to Makhachev. I'd rate the cardio and the fight IQ and just the momentum, everything. Like the actual finishing ability. Belal Muhammad, I get that he got 49-46, and, he went against the game plan, and he wasn't exactly showing the greatest fight IQ at times, but even then, I don't think it was exactly all in the fight IQ. I think JDM was that good with the takedown defense. I think he was that good in the scrambles. I just think in general, like, JDM is that level of grappler to where he went in the hyperbolic time chamber with Craig Jones, he improved massively, and I do think that's going to be a big threat to Islam, because if Makhachev can't get his way with these takedowns, man, if he's not efficiently able to hold the back of JDM, and efficiently able to control him on the ground and hunt for that kind of submission, like I think he will be able to get maybe later in the fight. He's got a good Dariush, a good Kimura. I think overall, man, JDM could win this fight if he's able to officially not let Makhachev get going on the ground, man. If JDM is popping up efficiently to his feet as much as he was against Belal Muhammad and his takedown defense holds up that good, dude, put all money, put the house on JDM. But JDM consistently, man, he gets taken down frequently. He gets taken down in a lot of his fights. And I get that he does have that dog in him. JDM clearly can take adversity and dish it back, man. He was losing that Gilbert Burns fight. I know that some people were saying it was 1-1. In my opinion, it was 0-2 and Burns was really efficiently getting the better of him, but all it takes is that one knee up the middle for Burns to go flying down to the mat, and JDM ends up winning, and now he's the champion a year or two later, okay? So JDM has that dog in him. He can face adversity. Even if Makhachev is ragged on him on the ground, let's say hypothetically on round 1, 2, 3, JDM still has that threat to knock you out at any time in the fight, rounds 4 or 5, okay? So the guy's got heart, and again, he's going to be very prepared for this fight specifically, working with Craig Jones, working with Volkanovski. Like, he does have the necessary team and blueprint behind him to get this one done, but Makhachev with that team could be, brother. Him in his own right, you got to think they got a good game plan for a guy like JDM here, okay? So Makhachev overall, he's got a crazy squeeze and grip. I think it was already super hard for guys to deal with at 155. I feel like that strength and the grappling is going to translate even better up to 170. And I do think that, again, Makhachev is just a stronger athlete as a whole than a guy like Belal Muhammad. And I think he'll be able to do just enough to be able to hold his own on the feet. I think that when Islam is on the feet, he's got solid head movement. I think for this matchup specifically, he's going to want to land kicks to the body and inside leg kicks in general, because that kind of does disrupt the momentum and the rhythm of JDM's ultra instinct flow, man. His head's gonna start growing all white and gray and all that. But in general, I think Makhachev's gonna do a good job of disrupting that rhythm and is gonna do a better job than Belal at really kind of ruining the rhythm and flow and the fluidity of JDM, man. But I'm really glazing Makhachev here, but don't get me wrong, dude. I'm not glazing, dude. This is such a 50-50 fight. Don't get me wrong, my boys. Like, I went so back and forth on who to pick for this fight. I actually had JDM for like a whole month straight, but I do think JDM, fantastic striker. His boxing is beautiful to watch. High guard, good head movement, nice jab, good leg kicks, especially lands clean to the body. He's just a very creative striker as a whole. I do think he's going to have the speed advantage. I know Makhachev has that lighter man skill, but JDM is just born and raised to play fights out on the feet, man. His boxing is fantastic. He's got good knees as well, which I could easily see catching Islam rushing into these takedowns. JDM's threat of the knees could definitely present problems here for Makhachev. Makhachev's definitely going to be very persistent with his takedown attempts. Obviously, that's his bread and butter. And obviously, if he's going to win this fight, yeah, he might be able to hold his own in the striking, but it's going to be via some submission or eventually just really controlling JDM efficiently into a decision. So maybe if he does get reckless with these takedowns, man, or if he really does rely on it too much, I could see that backfiring against him, man, and JDM catches him with one of these knees or uppercuts when Makhachev is rushing in. But JDM, man, his takedown defense and defensive grappling as a whole, it's improved so much. And again, man, if he's able to get up as efficiently as they did against Belal, he's going to win this fight, man. But I just don't know if Makhachev is going to allow that, man. Makhachev is someone who's thrives on pressuring guys against the fence and really just holding them there and eventually hunting for that submission. And JDM has proven to us that he can get up from these takedowns, whether it be against the fence or in the middle of the cage, man. Like the defensive grappling and how he's looked in the scrambles, it's improved, and he's still able to get these wins, but I just don't know if Makhachev is the level of grappler that these other guys are. I think he's above that level. I think he is one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the UFC. And JDM, man, fantastic striker. He's got a bunch of advantages in this fight, and especially the fact that this is the first younger fighter that Makhachev has faced, I believe, in years. It's been years since Makhachev has faced a fighter that's younger than him. And JDM, 29 years old, just entering his prime here, and he does have that height and reach advantage to where, man, higher output on the feet as well. Dangerous finishing threat on the feet. I could totally see JDM catching him, man. Creative, dangerous striker, but I just feel like Makhachev's grappling is going to be too much, and he'll be able to hold his own in the striking just enough to where, honestly, y'all, it might hurt me here, but I do think Makhachev is really chasing that GOAT status here. He knows that that's on the line. He's at kind of that entering the tail end of his prime. He's going to probably make the most out of it, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people are concerned about the move to 170, that it might not exactly translate as well as 155, but I believe Makhachev when he said he was fighting at 70%. Like, the dude walks around at like 190-something, 190-something pounds. I know they all talk in kilos. Most people talk in kilos. I got to specify, but the guy's walking around at like 190-something. I believe him when he says that weight cut was brutal for him, okay? Like, look at Tupurio. Tupurio couldn't stand 145. We were wondering how he's going to translate at 155. Knocks out Oliveira in one round, okay? I don't think Makhachev's going to be able to do that as efficiently as Tupurio moving up, but my whole point is that, like, the weight cut does matter. I believe him when he says it. It was sucking the soul out of him. Pause, but in general, I'm going to be trusting in Makhachev to do just enough in the grappling to efficiently take the back of JDM, control him, and maybe even hunt for that submission to where I think it's either going to be a 48-47 Makhachev, and the fight's very competitive throughout, and he just edges him out, or it's going to be a championship round finish here, a submission specifically in the 4th or 5th round here, okay? So very risky pick, and I'm very excited for this fight, man. Super hyped up for it. Super hyped up, but overall, I want to pick JDM. I'm tempted to, but I'm going to be trusting Islam Makhachev to get this one done, man. I just think on paper, he is the better fighter skill for skill here, man, okay? And moving on now to the blanks of the card, okay? We got the underdog of the card, the locks of the card, the wild card of the card, and the card rating. All of them are self-explanatory, but I'll get to each one as I get to it. Starting off with the underdog of the card, which one of my underdog picks am I the most confident in to get it done? I believe the only two dogs I picked on this card are Leon motherfucking Edwards and Zhang Weili. I'm going to go with Zhang Weili, man. Got to go with Zhang Weili. I think that she's that very slight underdog to where I could just totally see her getting this one done a lot more confidently than I could see Leon Edwards getting it done. Edwards is much more that risky pick, and I'm really afraid he's going to get knocked the hell out to where at least Weili, I'm just straight up confident that she gets this one done, okay? More in her prime, and like I was yapping about earlier, I just feel like her well-roundedness is going to be able to match Shevchenko's well-roundedness, but she's just looking better with everything she's doing, okay? And the finishing ability on top of it. I'm trusting in Weili as my underdog at the card, okay? Moving on to the locks of the card, which of my picks do I believe are not losing, man? Which of them am I the most confident in, dude? I'm going to put Bo Nickal on here, which might be risky. I get that a lot of people are going Vieira, and it's like, how the hell is Bo Nickal alive? I just really feel like Bo should be able to get this one done, man. I'm also going to be putting Kyle Daukaus on here. I feel like he's going to be able to officially knock out GM3 inside one round. And then this one, I'm just the most confident, man. Jesus Christ, if McConico wins, we're in Doomsdayville, but I'm going to trust in Susurkaev to be able to be my third lock of the card, okay? So I'm going with Susurkaev. I just said his name in two different ways, guys. I'm going with Susurkaev, Daukaus, and Bo Nickal as my 3 locks of the card, okay? No locks on the main card, man. I'm really I'm really worried about a lot of these risky picks I got for the main card, as a lot of us should be, okay? Even if I went with Prates over Edwards or Benil over BSD, I'd be just as worried, man, okay? So overall, those are going to be my 3 locks of the card. Moving on now to the wild card of the card, who's somebody that's being pretty overlooked or overshadowed, but if they are able to get a win, which they could be capable of doing, they're going to be really able to shake up the rankings, shake up the division, and get a big matchup next. I mean, dude, I usually don't pick the wild cards of the cards here, but I'm going to go with Leon Edwards. Like, a lot of people are overlooking Edwards here, and if he does get this one done, it truly will be a people forget man kind of performance, and he'll remind us why he was a former champion, remind us why he's barely lost in the UFC, and remind us why he's still that top 5 level. Like, very risky here. And again, I usually don't pick the wild cards, but Leon Edwards, it just so happens to overlap that way. And moving on now to the card rating. What am I going to rate this card from 1 to 10? I rate this shit like Fantano, dude. I do not give out like 8s and 9s, God forbid a 10, that easily, but I gotta give this a 9, dude. It's a 9. If the prelims were just that little more stacked, man, okay? I would give this a 10. This is the greatest main card I have ever seen in my time as a fan, okay? UFC 300 or UFC 308, all of that, okay? Whatever before that as well. 217, that's a hood classic. 205 as well, don't get me wrong. But overall, dude, like, I gotta say that this is the best card. I'm sorry, the best main card I've ever seen. You get a bunch of top 10 matchups on top of the fact that, I mean, Jesus, the welterweight tournament, I love that, okay? Put so much pressure on these guys to actually get like a standout performance. I think we're going to see the best out of Prates, Edwards, Morales, Brady, and the two guys in the main event as well. On top of the fact that we got Gary and Muhammad next week, man. Beautiful time for the best division in the UFC. And just in general, man, the main card on its own is fantastic. Weili moving up a weight class, super high-level matchup. Makhachev moving up a weight class, super high-level matchup, okay? And in general, the prelims, I get that I said they could be a little more stacked, but that's just to go to a 9 to a 10. The prelims are still fantastic. You got Nickal. You got bangers like Kopylov and Rodrigues, Wellmaker and Haddon. I mean, you got Daukaus on here as well, looking to stand out. You got Sabatini and Mariscal. Fun fight. You got Susurkaev on here. Prospect on the rise, man, okay? So I do think that the prelims are great, but the main card, dude, is just the best main card I've ever seen. And for that, man, and the fact that the prelims are solid and they are good, they are great, I'm going to give this card a 9, dude. I love it. Thank you guys so very much for making it this far in the video. I really appreciate it for giving me your time and attention. And let me know in the comments below, who are your picks? Who are your locks? Who are your underdogs? Let me know, man. I'm chomping at the bit for this card. Have a good time watching this weekend, man. Go out to the bars, or if you're just watching it by yourself, man, have a beautiful time, my friends. So thank you guys so very much for watching. All the smoke here. Appreciate you all a lot. And have a good one, my boys, okay?